So I wanted to give an update on what's going on with my wife. I posted a couple of times about her, but she's got a really long, complex medical history. She currently is on dialysis. She had a kidney transplant back in 2020 and a pancreas transplant. The pancreas is still doing its thing. The kidneys are starting to fail, or have failed, I guess. And along with that, unfortunately, she's experiencing some seizure-like symptoms, and now she's fainting quite a bit. And we've got a hospital here in a situation where a regional hospital basically took advantage of some crappy legislation, to be frank, here in Texas that basically allowed regional hospitals to avoid federal antitrust laws. So there's no enforcement from the FTC or the DOJ. They're just completely sidestepping it. And the only enforcement that there is the Attorney General, who is Ken Paxton. And if you know who Ken Paxton is, I mean, he probably doesn't even know what he's in charge of, to be honest. So these hospitals, in my situation, is really bad because the one big hospital bought one of the smaller hospitals. And they started buying all of the small, doctors' offices, the big doctors' offices. They own, I don't know, I'd estimate 70 to 80% of all the smaller clinics and whatnot. And they own a hospital that's about an hour and a half away from here. And they own a hospital, where else? There's another one nearby I can't think of right now, but it's a monopoly. Like, make no mistakes about it. It's straight up a monopoly. And that's not only affecting patient care, like in a dangerous way. It's bad for, it's bad for the nurses that work there. It's bad for the physicians. Really, the only people that I can think of that this is probably a good thing for are the people that are benefiting financially, which is not most of the people. And it's a bad situation. I have no idea why people thought it was a good idea to allow regional hospitals to merge with one another and avoid any kind of oversight and enforcement. Because they've proven that they will take the opportunity to create monopolies. And when you're the only game in town, it's pretty dangerous. It's dangerous for everybody. But this is not what this video is about. I shouldn't have talked about all of that. But I've been going through her doctor's notes. And I finally got access to them. I didn't have access for a long time. And she's been through lots of hospitalizations, especially the past 6 months. And we've been receiving some straight up negligent care, in my opinion. And we've gotten into a couple situations where my wife they threatened to arrest her if she didn't leave after she told them that she didn't feel comfortable leaving because she still had 9 out of 10 pain. And they're like, well, that's not how this works. You're being discharged. You're on private property. Now you got to go. Which they're trying to tell me that doesn't break something called EMTALA, but I'm pretty sure it does. We didn't get a second opinion. She's entitled to a second opinion. We had to leave that hospital because they're threatening to arrest her. Go to another one where we had a very similar experience. They ended up kicking me out. The guy told me I was hostile while I was sitting on the other side of my bed, or on the other side of the bed from him, sitting down next to my wife, comforting her, while he was standing, in a place of authority. He raised his voice at me first. I didn't ever raise my voice. But he raised his voice, started telling me I was hostile, and he kicked my wife's bed for some reason, and then kicked the door, I guess to make it sound like something was happening in there. I don't know. Very weak man. Not impressed. Called security in there, and security's like, what happened? And the security guard was just like, I don't know what that guy's talking about. But you need to go take care of your wife. Here's a card for the internal relations, the patient relations department. So yeah, law enforcement had no, they didn't have any problem with me. It was just nurse practitioner. He was a nurse practitioner that was vastly underqualified, and I guess he felt pressure because I wasn't letting him downplay everything. Oops, I'm informed, sorry. But Yeah, the doctor's notes have been characterizing my wife and me in a light that discredits us and makes my wife seem like she's drug seeking or malingering. So those are some pretty strong things to put in doctor's notes. They affect care. They affect how the next physician will treat or not treat. Um, and they're a lot of times just ignoring like vitals and like evidence of like what's actually going on, like lab results and whatnot. They'll minimize everything. For example, she had a heart cath about a week ago now, and she doesn't have, the stereotypical coronary artery disease. There was a little bit of blockage, but nothing that even required a stent or anything. It was normal. But what wasn't normal was the pressures uh, coming, I think, coming into her heart. Yeah. So those were not mildly elevated. And in the note, it literally says mildly elevated. I'm like, okay, that's weird because these are actually severely elevated. And that by itself, it points to either something is going on with her autonomic nervous system where it's potentially failing. Autonomic nervous system controls a lot of the stuff that, like muscles and breathing and whatnot. So that's bad. I'm not sure that's what's going on, but she does have gastroparesis, which they just tend to gloss over. And if you have gastroparesis, there's pretty strong indications that you have a damaged vagal nerve. And I don't know if you know this, the vagal nerve is a part of the nervous system. Guess which part, right? They're just completely glossing over that, like it doesn't exist. And she had an MRI, and they made it sound like it was no big deal. She had some whitening, as they described it, in her brain. That could also point to some problematic stuff. And remember, she's on dialysis, so dialysis doesn't clear everything. If your kidneys are not doing their job, it won't clear a lot of the metabolites of like drugs, right? And she's received a lot of pain medication because she's been in a lot of pain, and she's taken anti-rejection medicines that are toxic, right? And she has to take them because that's what keeps her alive, essentially. Because if she didn't take them, she would have kidney rejection, and yeah, things wouldn't go so hot. So I don't feel like they're taking that into account. And she's definitely had symptoms in the past of something called uremic encephalopathy, which is something like she's definitely uremic, right? When you're on dialysis, you're uremic. Encephalopathy means swollen brain, right? Or inflamed brain. Not good. No bueno. Can cause seizures, can cause all kinds of craziness. And that was also kind of glossed over. And the doctors, even at a more, I don't want to say prestigious, but arguably a better hospital in Dallas, even a neurologist looked at that and he saw, well, these levels are normal, so she doesn't have this. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, it literally doesn't matter, especially with someone who's on dialysis. The number that you tested for can be normal. And I don't think they tested for, like, the metabolites or other toxins. They didn't test for it. That could be sky high. But it seems like just nobody cares. They're like, oh, well, they want to make it sound like it's psychiatric. Like, oh, she just needs therapy. I'm like, okay, yes, of course she needs therapy, but this is not, the underlying cause is definitely not psychological. Definitely not. And I'll tell you why. There's a lot of reasons, but specifically this morning, this woman was getting herself some cereal in the kitchen, and she was walking to her room, and she just stood there and like was looking off in the distance. And at first I thought she was looking at me, but after a minute or two, or not even a minute or two, a couple seconds, I was like, oh, her eyes are not moving. She has no idea what's going on. So I went over to her, put the cereal down, and she just kind of collapsed, and I took her to the bed, and then she had a seizure. She was convulsing, right? They call them spells, like it's magical. She's a witch. But she was seizing for a good 25-30 minutes. That's not normal. And she eventually woke up, started talking. She was in bed until I took her to dialysis later. And then I get a phone call about an hour or two into dialysis from the RN at the dialysis center asking me, hey, what do you want me to do? Because they know we've had some really terrible experiences at the hospital. They're like, her vitals are fine. There's nothing like that's an emergency going on. And I know y'all have had bad experiences. So what do you want me to do? I was like, well, just finish her treatment, because guess what? If she doesn't do her treatment, it's going to be worse for her because there'll be more toxins, right? So she's finishing her treatment. She's literally having a seizure there. Not responsive. But yeah, sure, she's faking it. It's psychological, right? Yeah. So if you have in your gut that maybe you're not being treated like you should be, or you're being gaslit, which is unfortunately really common, especially for people that were born, female and are women of color, like that group is really more prone to some bad things, right? So yeah, don't downplay it. If you think something's off, it probably is. Pay close attention to your medical paperwork. Get in contact with case managers and even patient advocates, lawyers. I mean, that's kind of like the last step. A lot of times lawyers are not even really a good idea, because guess what? Once you have a lawyer, investigations shut down. They don't tell you anything. You don't know what's going on until they're done, right? So that kind of actually gives you less leverage in the beginning. But I mean, if it's egregious enough, yeah, you want a lawyer. But yeah, I saw on her record some stuff that was really problematic and not based on evidence. It was pure dogmatic bullcrap, to be frank. It was what do they call it? Medical overshadowing or something like that. Basically, just kind of inserting their narrative instead of what is actually true. They can't do that. And I made a request to have that document changed. You can do that with HIPAA, and they have to investigate it. And even if they decline to change it, then that still has to be attached to that record forever. So you'll have like the physician's note and then, what you stated, right? And at least that gives people they stop and like, why is this here? And I also contacted the compliance department, the bioethics committee. Yeah, and I'm not one to do all that. I don't want to do all that. I mean, we depend on this hospital. It's the only one in town, and there's so many people that I love that have worked there or currently work there. My wife, for example, is a nurse, right? Yeah, I don't want all that attention, but also I'm not going to let them, downplay all this and act like it's nothing. And God forbid something happens and I don't say anything, then what? So that's why, I'm making sure there's a record. Same as this video. I don't care if people watch it, but I can watch it later and remind myself, oh yeah, that happened. So anyways, y'all stay safe out there. Have a good day.